Hi, I'm Shahad, and today we're going to talk about the poem called Still I Rise by Maya Angelou. Before I start highlighting the literary and language devices, I first want to talk about Maya's life. Maya Angelou has been an inspiration for many people. She represents Black history very well. Throughout the years, she had received many awards, including 2 NAACP awards. She left a mark on the world, proving the rights of African Americans. Maya was born on the 4th of April 1928. When Maya was 3 years old, her parents fell out of love, so they decided to get divorced. Maya and her older brother went to live with their grandmother on their own for 4 years. They then were sent back to live with their mom, who had a new boyfriend called Freeman. At the age of 8, Maya was raped by her stepfather, Freeman. As a result, she suffered for the next 5 years and decided to go mute. In her silence, she found her love of literature. Her teacher later on convinced her to speak. During the 1950s and 1960s, she became a professional dancer. In 1961, Maya became big in the singing business. She started to create more and more songs. Maya, her boyfriend and son, moved to Cairo because she wanted to study traditional African dance and finish college. She worked as an editor for a paper called the Arab Observer. Maya would come to write 36 books. She died on May 28, 2014. What influenced Maya to write Still I Rise? As mentioned before, Maya was an African American. She lived through the Jim Crow era. These were the worst periods of U.S. history. At this time, many African Americans were denied. They were not allowed to vote, hold certain job positions, and they had no right to get a higher education in some universities. Now, let's get started. The poem begins with a juxtaposition of pronouns, you and me. You is a second person pronoun, while me is a first person pronoun. You may write me down in history is a declarative statement that shows some people have the power to define and write her history. Also, the abstract noun history shows the misrepresentation of African Americans. In the second line, she refers to bitter, twisted lies, and this shows that people have mistreated African Americans in the US. The repetition of you in the third line adds a really bitter edge to the tone. She says that you may trod me, and this is a metaphor for the historical oppression that a lot of African Americans have faced. She shows that the African American community cannot be oppressed, and that is because she says, like dust, I will rise. And this simile demonstrates both her strength and also her community's strength. Second verse begins by asking a rhetorical question, which is, does my sassiness upset you? Maya is being sarcastic towards the people who are upset that she is happy in the color of her skin, as well as in herself. She also used a colloquial term, which is sassiness, in order to show that she really doesn't care about the people who are angered that she is so happy. Then she asked another rhetorical question, which is, why you beset with gloom? This rhetorical question shows that some people are so hateful, especially when they see how happy she is. There is a simile in the third line as she used the word like. This shows how confident she is. She felt like oil tycoons, very bold and confident, even though she didn't have that type of wealth. In the third verse, she refers to the moons and the suns. This is a celestial imagery, which shows her love for herself, her heritage, as well as her skin color. Maya wants all African Americans to be proud of who they are. She says, just like hopes springing high. Both the personification and alliteration shows that Maya's hopes will never be taken away from her because she is persistent. She is seeing herself as being part of a very beautiful culture. She then repeats the title, Still I Rise, and that is because she is reminding herself that she has the power to rise. Maya asked another rhetorical question at the beginning of the fourth stanza. Slave drivers want to see her broken, and they also want to reduce her self esteem. Both had lowered eyes, are actions that go with low self esteem. These verbs emphasize the sense of subservience that her oppressor wants from her. There is a simile in the third line, and its purpose is to show that many people would have felt hopeless if they were in the same situation as African American. But Maya rejects feeling down. Maya used language related to the semantic field of sadness, which is teardrops cries. She refuses to be unhappy, and instead, she is very happy. My is a possessive pronoun. Maya used this pronoun to show people that she is in control of her happiness, whereas the word haughtiness reveals how confident and proud she is. She then uses an imperative sentence. Don't you take it awful hard. She is basically giving orders to her oppressors to not be angry. There is a simile and alteration in the sentence like I have got gold mines, because Maya feels really unique and wealthy in her skin color. In line 20, she uses colloquialism, diggin', and this shows that she is playful. She mentions many violent acts such as shoot, cut, and kill. All of these are semantic field of violence. In order to be able to talk about words, eyes, and hatefulness, Maya starts using the rule of three. This shows the reader how much the society is excluding African American people. The phrase I will rise is repeated once again, and this shows how proud she is to be an African American. Many people around her are trying to make her feel uncomfortable in her own skin color. But the repetition of this sentence indicates that no matter what they do, she will always be proud of herself and happy. The simile demonstrates her flexibility and adaptability. In line 25, she repeated the same possessive pronoun, which is my. She said my sexiness, and that indicates how proud she is. Her reference to sexiness shows that she sees herself very beautiful. There is a simile and alteration in the sentence I dance like I have got diamonds, because this shows her cheerful energy. She also refers to her dancing like she got diamonds at the meeting of her thighs. African American people are known to be stronger and larger in size than other people, so this alteration, meeting and my, refers to all African figures. Maya is proud of her body, and not only that, but she also loves her big African body. Huts of History is an alteration that refers to the slave trade. She then uses enjambment to speed up the pace of the poem, and this is a dramatic monologue. She repeats the title of the poem, I Rise. The repetition, as mentioned before, is a reminder to herself to be strong and keep rising despite all the systematic oppression. There is a metaphor in the sentence past that is rooted in pain, and it makes reference to the suffering of African American people as they went through slavery and slave trade. I am a black ocean is also a metaphor. However, she used this metaphor since it represents the color of her skin as well as her history. Welling and swelling are present continuous verbs. Their principal aim is to show that Maya has a lot of energy. In line 35, the author talks about the nights of terror and fear. Now, this metaphor is a reference to segregation and also to the racist groups. It shows the real challenge that African Americans face in America. There's an oxymoron, nights versus day, and she ends with a promise of the future. In line 39, she mentions my ancestors' gifts, which is a connection to the fact that the United States has typically relied on slave labor to create the nation. So these are gifts from her slave ancestors. She also used the rhyming words gave and slave to emphasize that despite her dark past, she is emerging like a phoenix from the ashes. The dream has two clarifications in line 40. The first is that she realized Martin Luther King's vision of African Americans being treated equally to other races in the United States. The second sense refers to her definition of the American dream. Maya was trying to explain that she is living a very unique type of American dream. She is being extremely proud of who she is and her history. That's it. Thank you very much.